السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My coffee run next for the rest of the day. I received a message yesterday, sister asking me, and I'm hoping that she's listening, because then I get to kill two birds with one stone. Sister asked, my husband asked the question, how do I get my wife to be more submissive? How do I get my wife to be more submissive? Okay. So, on my way out the door, I'm pondering over this question and how I would even begin to respond to the question. So I figured I got a few minutes before I go in and grab me some breakfast. So why not pull up the Periscope and begin a discussion? So I'm particularly addressing the men. So the brothers that are listening, brothers that are at work, sisters who are listening, please share this message with your husband. All right. For those of you who are not Muslim, please share this with your boyfriend, your significant other, whatever. Men, pay attention. Let me give you some game real quick. First, the reason why I titled it, because I knew that people would click on it very quickly, especially the women. How to get your woman to act right. All right, that is what's called man talk. That's how men communicate, right? She said the click was so fast. That's how men communicate, right? Like, she just won't act right. How do I get her to act right? All right. So let me give you guys some game, man. Let me and sisters, don't get offended when men say, how do I get her to act right? It means that we want to know, what is it that we can do to get you to just, like, get in formation. If I could use that term, since we're using modern vernacular, right? If I could just get you to get in formation, right? To just be more in sync with me as a man and my needs and, what I need to, have some peace in my life. That's pretty much what it means. It's not a misogynistic term. I hate when, especially feminists, they try to take man language, the way that we talk, everything about us, and just make it feminine, and, to make it look like it's misogynistic, to make it look like it's, looking down on women. And it's not that. It's just that this is the way men communicate with other men. This is how we talk. This is how we talk. It is not demeaning to women. It is not belittling to women. It's not misogynistic, although from a woman's perspective. And then sometimes when women use certain language, you got to know how to train them, and all this other all this other talk that women use when they talk amongst themselves. Women, don't you talk like that? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You gotta train them, you gotta, how you get your man to act, like, you guys use the same terminologies. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not offended by that, because that's just women language. That's how you guys communicate with one another. But don't look at men and don't look at men and say, well, that language is misogynistic, and how, don't try to tweak everything about us as men, because if two people are the same, if you're trying to make us more like women, if two people are the same, one of you are, irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? One of you are irrelevant. You do the same thing, and it's no fault on you when you do that. It's no fault on women when you guys do that. You got to train them. You got to know how to, train him how to do this and train him out. Like, like we're dogs, like we're animals or something like that. And I mean, that's cool, because I'm not offended by that personally, because I understand that that's the way that you guys communicate. That's how you talk. But men, we also have a language amongst men and how we talk and how we communicate. And if you were in a man's world, right? If you were from Mars, right, using the men are from Mars and women are from Venus. If you were from Mars, then you would understand what we mean when we say that. It's not belittling or misogynistic. So let me just throw that out there as a disclaimer from the beginning. But for men, when we say, how do I get my woman to act right? How do I get my wife to act right? What we're basically asking is, what do I need to do to get this woman to stop pestering me and stop, just kind of just be more like me as a man, be more like me. And so that we can have a happy, healthy relationship, right? So the thing is, let's just go about this and keep in mind that how we function in our relationships, as I've said this before, and you guys have to understand this, how we function in our relationships is largely based upon the category that we fall into within our own family unit. How we function in our marriages is largely based upon the category we fall into within our own family unit. And what I mean by that is that you have some children who are the first child, you have this middle child, and you have the last child, the baby. What category you fall into, your personality is usually based upon the category that you fall into. And when you marry your spouse, I'm talking about for men, when you marry a woman, you have to be particularly aware of what category she falls into within her family unit. I'll give you an example. So, for example, as a man, if you were the first child, right? As a man, if you were the first child. As the first child, usually first child syndrome, which is real. Psychologists use this. This is real. First child syndrome. First children are usually... First child is usually very outgoing, very independent, not necessarily needy, because what happens when the parents have more children, they usually focus more, they're very bossy. Yes. When the parents have more children, the focus usually now goes on the younger children, which means that the oldest child becomes like the surrogate parent. The oldest child becomes like the surrogate parent. So the oldest child is usually the one that the parents leave the younger children with when they need to go out. I mean, I do it. I see it with my own children. Even with my own children. You can see the categories manifest in their personality. Manifest right into their personality. So if you are a man and you're the first child, understand, how being a first child has shaped and molded your personality. All right. You are the oldest. You are usually the one that is tasked with all the responsibilities, right? And if you were raised without a father, it's even worse, because now sometimes what single mothers do is what is called emotional incest. And that is that because the single mother cannot find or does not choose to find a spouse, she usually makes the oldest male child almost like her husband. And you'll see that a lot of times with single mothers and their oldest boy, right? It's emotional incest. It's not intentional, but, as human beings, we need that balance in our lives. And not having a man in your life as a single woman, then the closest to you is your oldest male child. And you start to function with him in that relationship, in that maternal mother-child, mother-son relationship. You start to treat him as if he's your spouse. Wallah al-Azim, I kid you not. You're sharing information with him. You're engaging him as if he's an adult. You're making him responsible for information, making him responsible for, household responsibilities. You understand what I'm saying? And no, the youngest child usually is just bossy by nature. That's just their position. Even when you look at Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, that was his youngest child. She was the baby. And the Prophet ﷺ nicknamed Fatima Abiha, you are your father's mother. Meaning that Fatima functioned with the Prophet ﷺ like Khadija did. She was to the Prophet exactly what Khadija was. And that's not That's because the youngest child, let's go to that category since we're on the topic. The youngest child is usually given less responsibility because the youngest child usually comes at a time when the parents, a lot of times, was not ready to have any more children. And then the youngest child just comes along, right? I with my first family, my last child from my first family, from my first wife, we didn't plan on having him. I came in one day and I'm pregnant, and I'm just like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, I did not want any more children at that moment. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens is you have already mentally made preparation not to have any more kids, and then this last kid comes along, and by that time, as a parent, you're very seasoned as a parent. So a lot of things, or you're tired, right? A lot of things that the first child was, you were very rigid and very strict with the first child. The bottles had to be this, and the nipples had to be this, and everything was very specific because it was a new experience, right? It was a bad experience. So what ends up happening is that by the time you get to the last child, you're really tired. Like, you're burnt out as a parent, and you really kind of just let the child just, raise themselves. And the older siblings usually end up raising the last child. All right, which is why they kind of get away with everything. They get away with murder, right? And this is the baby. The baby is usually spoiled. They get away with everything, very bossy. They have the world all figured out, right? They have this, this high sense of, this high sense of, privilege, right? Because all of the things that the other siblings went through, the youngest child doesn't have to go through. And then you have the middle child, which is the last category. The middle child, which is usually the one that is searching for validation always. He's too young to play with the oldest kid, and he's too old to play with the youngest kid. So he falls right there in the middle. And this is the child that is usually always, seeking validation, from outside, always looking for, and, just always looking for that in, always wants to be a part of a crowd, always has to be around people, because this is the way that they get that validation. So now, after understanding these three categories, right? Now, after seeing these three categories, if you are a man, right, and you are the first child in your family, and you marry a woman who is a middle child in her family, you're going to clash. Because as the first child in your family, as a man, you're not really looking for attention. You're very outgoing. You're got the world kind of figured out, right? You understand? Of course, and then the only child, they say that the only child is usually the very, very next to being insane because they had no one to share that childhood with for the most part. You had cousins, you had family members, play dates, right? But at the same token, at the end of the day, you're only at home with your parents. So usually the only child usually matures very quickly because the parents are usually their friends. Their best friends are usually their parents. So they mature very more quickly than the other kids do because their development is based upon being around parents, around adults, not around other children. All right. And that's a whole other topic. All right. So the point that I'm making is that when you have you as a man, if you are the first child in your family and you're married to a woman who's a second child in her family, you're going to run into problems because as a first child in your family, you're pretty much outgoing. You going after the world. You got your head screwed on and and very bossy. And then, of course, your wife is a second child in her family, middle child. And so she's always looking for attention. She always needs the attention. She needs the validation. And for you as a man, you like you need to get your stuff together, man. You know what I mean? You need to get your stuff together, man. Like, I can't hold your hand and walk you through life. You understand? That's usually your mentality. While your wife, who is a second child, the middle child in her family, she needs that validation. So when we talk about how do I get my woman to act right, first let's start there. Find out where you fall into, which category you fall into. with your spouse. You understand? Very important. If you as a man are a second child, a middle child in your family, always seeking validation, always need attention, right? And then you marry a woman who's a first child in her family, very bossy, very outgoing, very independent, you run into another problem because you constantly need that validation from your wife when she's like, dude, man, you need to man up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm, on my trajectory. You need to man up and you need to get your stuff together, man. While you as a second child from your family are constantly looking for that validation, constantly looking for that attention, constantly looking for, someone to, you understand? I'm just being honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just being honest with you. And then, of course, the worst case scenario is when you have two people who are married, a brother who is the last child in his family, spoiled brat, and then you have the last child of the female in her family. She's a spoiled brat, bossy, privileged, and you got these two individuals in a family together, in a marriage together. This is a recipe for drama. I kid you not. Because both of you think that, the world revolves around you. Both of you are privileged. Both of you are spoiled brats who have gotten away with murder in your own family. I kid you not. This is the worst case scenario. The worst case. And these are usually the situations that end up in divorce because no one wants to yield. No one is going to yield. Because you grew up in your own home and the entire household revolved around you. And now you go into your marriage believing that your entire marriage is going to revolve around you. It's not necessarily mommy daddy issues because the scenarios that I'm giving you are children who grow up in a home with both parents. I'm not even talking about the single parents and the absent daddy or the absent mom or whatever. I'm not even referring to that. That's a whole nother layer of problems, a whole nother layer of issues that would require an entirely different lecture. You know what I'm saying? Like that would require something totally different. Right now, I'm just giving you the easiest case scenario. And these are children who grew up in a home with both parents, two active parents. And maybe, at a later time, we can look at the other family dynamics. I mean, even when we're talking about stepchildren and in the Islamic community, stepchildren, you know what I'm saying, are that is like almost no home in the Islamic community that doesn't have a stepchild or an extended family member that is being raised in that home. And that adds another level because you are being raised with someone that is not even your biological parent. And then we're going into these marriages, man. We're going into these marriages trying to figure out why I can't get this person to act right. Because you don't know the person's family dynamic. So step one with brothers, when you want quote unquote to get your woman to act right, you got to understand her family dynamic and where she comes from. That's number one. Understanding your dilemma is half of your solution. Understanding your problem is half of your solution. If you don't understand the root of the problem, you don't understand where the problem is coming from, you're going to constantly keep, picking at the branches when you never even get to the root. The root of the problem is not that she won't act right. She just won't act right. The root of the problem is that you don't understand her family dynamic and where she falls in, what category she falls into, so you can actually know how, like, we don't come with a manual. We don't come with a manual. When we go into relationships with people, man, we don't come with a manual. There's no booklet that comes with this person. You know what I'm saying? I marry someone. There's no booklet on Shadeed Muhammad. Here you go. Here's the booklet that comes with him or her, so that you can figure out how to make them work right, act right. We don't come like that. You have to do your investigation. You have to do your investigation. You have to go back and find out, okay, let me see what this person's family life was like. Get some information from the mom, get some information from the dad. Siblings will tell you all, man. Siblings will tell you everything. How they interact with their siblings will tell you everything. Yeah, well, like I said before, the Islamic community don't care about, they're not concerned with your marriage. They just concerned with looking good. We getting the people married in the community so that we can reduce the fornication levels in our community so that we look good. That's all. That's pretty much what we care about. We want to look good. We want the look of being an Islamic community, but we're not implementing we're not instituting the elements that are necessary to have an Islamic community. What about being the first child of a single father that was abusive? I mean, when you're talking about, in the Paki community, very huge. Very huge. I'm sad to say that I said this before on the Mad Mamluks interview that I did. The situation with Norman Ali Khan. If Norman Ali Khan had did what he did in the African American community, nobody would have even blinked an eye at it. Nobody would have batted an eye towards what he did because it's so common. But the Paki community had to literally crucify Norman Ali Khan just to prove, their self-righteousness within the larger Islamic communities in America. That brother, man, subhanAllah, did not need to be dealt with like that. He did not need to be dealt with like that, man. You literally ostracized, destroyed this brother's entire life because he had some communication with two sisters. And I mean, nobody else took any responsibility for what they did. He's the one that's responsible because he's a sheikh. But you know what? The Paki community, you built Norman Ali Khan, so you had to destroy him. That was the idol that you guys built. And so therefore you had to destroy him. No one else looked at him as this huge major figure. Nobody else saw him as that. You guys did. You built him up as this $1 million man, perfect specimen of a Muslim scholar. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. And you forgot that he was human. You understand? You forgot that he was human. And then what he did, when he did what humans did, you crucified him. You destroyed everything that was connected to him. I'm not saying that he doesn't share in the responsibility for that. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that goes on all day, every day in the African American Muslim community. And we don't necessarily, we're very merciful. We're very compassionate. We know speakers, da'is, imams that, have committed adultery, have had children, out of wedlock, and people still listen to them. And that's just because as African Americans, we just merciful, man. We believe in second chances. We give people another opportunity. We allow people to make mistakes, man. We don't raise people to the degree of, priesthood, and almost being like the Pope, the Islamic Pope, we don't do that, but in other communities, man, subhanAllah, you transgress. And then of course, when a person loves hard, they also hate hard. That's the danger in loving hard. People say, oh, I love hard. The danger in loving hard is that you hate hard as well. There's no balance. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Habib habibaka hawnin ma, asa an yakun baghidaka yawmin ma. That love the person you love in moderation, because the one you love may make a mistake one day and end up being on the other end of your love and have to be the one that you hate. وَأَبْغِضْ بَغِيدَكَ هَوْنٍ مَا عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُنْ حَبِيبَكَ يَوْمٍ مَا. And hate the one that you hate in moderation, because the one that you hate may one day have to be the one that you love. May do something, right? Divine Allah may intervene, right? And change this person's heart, and the person may one day have to be the one that you love. And because you hate so much, you hate to such a degree, right? The depth of your hate has no limit. That even when you're supposed to love the person, you can't do it. So in our religion, that's not necessarily a praiseworthy thing. It's actually blameworthy. All right, so back to our topic. So how do you get the woman to act right? Number one is that you have to understand her dynamic, where she comes from. Number two, how do you get your woman to act right? I think when a woman loves you, when a woman truly loves you, she will go to the end of the world for you. And I just think that a lot of brothers don't invest a lot of time and energy. Many of us don't stay around long enough to get the woman to love us. We stay around until the honeymoon phase is over, until her intoxication wears off. And then she can now see us for who we are, flaws and all, mistakes and everything. And then now we want to bounce because we like, she not acting right. Now, it's not that she's not acting right. All right. It's not that she doesn't act right. It's the fact of the matter is that, the drugs wore off and she can now see you for who you are. No, it's not that women don't respect you. Hold on. I'm going to get to that part. Respect is actually the next point. It's not that she doesn't respect you. When a woman really loves you, when a woman really, if you're a man and you ever been in love with a woman before, you know that a woman will do things for you, to you, that you could have never even thought. Like, you see a really nasty side of a woman when she really loves you. She starts to do things like pick the boogers out of your eyes, and, going in your nose, look in your nose. And, I mean, like, you'd be like, ew, man, like, did you just do that? Understand what a woman will do for you, right? What a woman will do for you when she loves you, man. She will do things for you that you as a man would not do to her. A woman, when she loves you, making it seem like you got to subject yourself to her. No, I'm just saying that you have to invest. You have to invest. But many of us as men, we don't stay around long enough to invest, to have that type of relationship. We want what is easy. The honeymoon phase, which is between 2 months to 2 years, that phase runs out very quickly. That phase runs out very quickly. And we look at how much we invest in the honeymoon phase. During the premarital phase, as Muslim men, we're talking about all of the things that we want to do, all of the things that we want to wine them. We want to do this. We want to dine them. We want to take them here. We want to go here. We're making all these huge promises, right? I did a whole entire Man Logic about that. The promises that we make. Big promises, man. Big promises. And we don't come through on much of them. But we make all of these huge promises about what we're going to do to them, and we're going to Jannah together, and have the woman and you can't tell a woman things like that. You cannot tell a woman things like that. Right? You cannot tell a woman things like that. Because those are the things that tick her boxes. And she's going to hold you to that because everything that, you told her, she invests emotion into. She's not going to forget it because she's looking at those things that, you promised. Like, you're ticking all her boxes. Oh, we're going to Hajj together. We're going to Jannah together. We're going to do this together. We're going to do that together. You're ticking all of her boxes. So now in the relationship, she's waiting to see, okay, when is he going to come through on those things? And for us, it's like, I was just saying that just to get you. I got you now. Let me just say that, you know what I mean? And we're not really investing in the marriage what it takes to get the woman to love us. That's number one. When a woman loves you, she will do things for you as a man that she would not even do that you would not even do for her, right? Don't engage. I mean, like the people that are talking, I have an itchy trigger finger. I'm about to block them. All right. We're having an adult grown conversation, and perhaps this is the wrong conversation for them. All right. All right. So that's number one, when a woman loves you. So when we say, how can I get my woman to act right? How about investing in the relationship so that, you can get genuine love from her? And then that whole idea of her acting right will just come natural. That will come natural. Just get her to love you. Okay, so now the question is, well, how do I get her to love me? How do I get her to love me? Some women are just natural. They're natural, they love. Right? Some women naturally love. All right. Some women are just hopeless romantics. I think women by nature are hopeless romantics. They want to be loved. Bro, what kind of men do women like? What type of question is that? The type of woman I like is different from the type of woman. What do you mean? What type of women do men like? What type of question is that? every man is different. Every man has their own, preferences. I don't even know what type of question it is. Like, just hold tight with the questions. Just listen, man. I'm probably going to get to some of the things that's roaming around in your head. I'm gonna probably get to that. All right. When you say what type of woman men like, that's a very general statement. And I can almost guarantee if you was to give me a list of things that, some people are going to disagree with that. No, I don't require that. Every man requires something different. I don't require what you require, and you don't require necessarily what I require. So that's a very general statement. I can't answer that. Number two, a woman will act right when number one was women. You can get women to act right when you understand their dynamic, where they come from. Number two, you can get a woman to act right if you can get her to love you, right? If you can get her to fall in love with you, she'll act right by nature. Her acting right is a byproduct. It's not the end goal, right? You understand? Getting the woman to act right is not the goal. Loving her is the goal, and getting her to act right is a byproduct of that. Number three, to get your woman to act right, is to have her respect you. When a woman respects you, she'll naturally move and let you get in the lane that you're most comfortable in without challenging you in that. And that was the premise of the question that was asked to me, is how does a man get a woman to be subservient? And I don't necessarily agree with the whole subservient thing. Nonetheless, I understand where they're coming from. And I think that when a woman respects a man, she respects him. All right. I think she will naturally just move into her lane. Naturally move into her lane and let you have the lane that, you require. She's going to give you that she's not going to challenge you on that. Now, mind you, some women, that may be a little bit more of a challenge for them because they've been single for a long time and they've been handling everything on their own. But when a man comes in and she sees this man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, not subservient, the wrong term, but we know what they mean. How does a man get a woman to, kind of just let him be the man? That doesn't necessarily mean subservient, but sometimes we got to read between the lines and understand what people are not saying. We understand what they are saying, but we have to, even more than that, understand what they are not saying. So I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very literal. So when a person writes me a note, I know what they're saying. I don't have to correct them and say, oh, subservient is the wrong term. I know that's not what they meant. I know exactly what they meant. All right. Here again, this is men having conversation with men. So I understand. All right. And I'm not going to hold him for the term because maybe that's the way that he knows how to express himself. But if you know what the person means, no need to hold them accountable for the terms that they use. You know what they meant. All right. So when I don't know if you guys have seen Black Panther, right? So you take a guy like the guy from the Jabari tribe, M'Baku, right? Pure alpha male. You understand what I'm saying? Like, a woman marrying a guy like that is not going to challenge him because she already sees his demeanor, this bravado. You understand what I'm saying? This male bravado, this, and not only that, not only does she see the respect that he demands, that he commands, she sees the respect that other men give him. All right. You look at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Yes, he did have a soft side. And that's the point that I'm getting to, because alpha male doesn't necessarily mean pure male bravado and everybody got to bow down to him. Alpha male meaning that you are very strong in your spot. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't allow your woman or the people that you hold dear to you to infringe on areas of your life that normal people would not infringe on. You look at Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He allowed his wife to talk to him a certain type of way. You look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're talking about a man who was juggling 9 women at one time. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if alpha male is the best term to describe that. But I mean, in our, current, in our, vernacular, our modern day vernacular, that's what it would be. Any man that can juggle more than, that could handle, more than one woman, in my eyes would be an alpha male, because a beta male cannot handle that. You understand what I'm saying? Many men have tried their hand in polygyny and have to fold the cards and say, you know what, I bow out. That ain't for me. You know what I mean? But women will normally move out of the way. Men who are not strong in their spot will move out of the way when an alpha male comes through. So how much more would that be for a woman? And that doesn't mean that the woman has to feel the weight of his alpha maleness. That means that the woman recognizes that this man requires certain things in order for me to get the best out of him. So I'm not going to get in his way. All right. He come in, you paying the rent. Nah, the rent is mine now. I handle the rent. I handle this. I handle that. You know what I mean? What woman is going to argue with that? Nah, hey, listen, you got it. That's yours. Handle it. He's not asking you. His demeanor demands respect, and you have no other choice but to respect that. And women love that. That is something women love. Women love that. That ticks one of their boxes. If there's a woman on here now that a man having this type of self-respect does not tick one of their boxes, then maybe you're on the wrong periscope. Maybe you're on the wrong scope. But that is one of the things that ticks a woman's boxes. You understand? If a woman's behavior is disapproved by the man, he should send her away. What world do you live in, man? What world do you live in? If the woman's behavior is not approved by the man, even your language, man, is very antiquated. I don't even know, if this is the right spot for you, man. At any rate, so when a woman respect, you understand what I'm saying? He has a level of respect. Obviously one that you do not. Okay, cool. Well, maybe this is not the place for you. Because you sound, just trying to use the utmost respect with you, you sound ridiculous right now. That if the woman's behavior, the man doesn't approve of the woman's behavior, I'm sorry, that's not going to work in this culture right here. We're trying to use Islam, infuse Islam into the culture that way. We're not trying to take people back to 1430 something years ago. That's not what we're doing. Nor is that what we are tasked with as American Muslims living in this society. That's not what we're in. You are a sheikh. Do not disrespect. Okay. So I'm not going to disrespect you, but I am going to block you. Sheikh or no sheikh, I really don't care. That might work with another group of people. I'm sorry. We think for ourselves now. We don't. I'm a sheikh. All right. Moving right along. So respect. That when a woman marries a man and he respects himself and she sees that other men respect him, right? Other men respect him. She automatically is going to give that to him. She's automatically going to give you that lane. She's not going to challenge that. So men have to look at some of the things that they do that make them, as the Arabs, they have a saying, sakata min aini, you fell from my eyes. I don't respect you anymore. And men have to look at the things that they do to, make their woman look at them differently. They don't even respect you. And it's not even a money thing. Sometimes it's a moral thing. Right? When you're trying to talk to your wife's girlfriend, who does that? What type of situation actually works out like that? I really want men to understand that. Your wife, and your wife's best friend is never going to work. That's never going to work. In your mind as a man, you might have already conjured up thoughts that I can have this one big, huge, happy family if it's just me, my wife, and her best friend, and we'll just all, live together. That'll never work. Even if your wife agrees to it from the beginning, eventually once the feelings set in, your wife will never be comfortable watching you love her best friend. That's not going to happen. Brothers, I want you to listen to me, man. That will never happen. There is nothing that will ever come out of good. It might be one or two situations where that may have worked. But if you peel back the layers of that relationship, you can see that there's some numbness there. Because a woman, in order for her to be able to, tolerate a situation like that, she has to numb herself to that. No woman is going to be cool watching her husband love her best friend or be in a relationship with her best friend. That's never going to work. That will never work. Understand that. So when men get caught out there trying to talk to their wife's best friend or their girl's best friend, and we do it on so many different levels, wallah al-azim, it makes the woman disrespect you. She looks at you differently. She looks at you differently because she's thinking to herself, out of all of the women that you could pursue, you would go after my best friend? You would go after my best friend? Be honorable, right? As I see, some of the brothers on Instagram using the word sturdy, you know what I mean? Like, be sturdy, be honorable, be respectful in the way that you approach the situation, man. But don't say that women don't respect you. Women usually will start you off at 100 and kind of let you work your way down to 0 and to the point where the woman just doesn't respect you anymore. And it's not that she doesn't respect you. She's seen some things from you that doesn't allow her to respect you. She's seen things from you that are indicators that you don't respect yourself, and it's hard for her to respect you. It's hard for her to see you. You know what I'm saying? Nah. It doesn't work like that. You don't get to have all of this, drama in your life as a man. You're not, you have a child from a previous relationship. You let the mother of the child talk to you any type of way in front of your wife, talk about your wife any type of way, and you don't never put her in a place. You never check that. You never say anything about that. You understand? A woman is looking at you like, dang, I'm your wife. I'm your wife. You're going to let someone who is not even your wife, who is the mother of your child, like, disrespect me like that, talk to me like that, and you don't say nothing to her? How is a woman supposed to lay in a bed with you and see you as her giant, see you as her Superman, see you as, nah, it doesn't work like that. So when we say a woman doesn't respect us, we got to ask, how are we putting ourselves in situations to be disrespected? All right. You get caught on the internet talking to other girls on the internet. Then you sloppy with it on top of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you leave your computer open. Your wife got access to, your other accounts. You understand what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Most of these women are chemically unbalanced. What psychology book did you get that from? What psychology book did you get that from? I really try to figure that out, man. That's a very broad statement and a very bold statement to make. Because when you say most of these women are chemically unbalanced, that means that you're perfect. You're perfect. You don't make no mistakes, right? And all the relationships you've had, it's always been the woman's fault, right? It's in the science papers. All right, cool. Let me block you too, man. Boy, this conversation is really, really bringing out some real stuff with a lot of the men, man. This conversation, I mean, I'm sorry that I kind of caught everybody off guard with this joint, but I mean, this is what was going on in my head, man. You, the ISIS. Okay. So, you go on somebody else's Periscope. All right, so when a woman catches you on the internet, you're talking to women on the internet, you're communicating. A real man, when he wants something, he just goes after it. He's not asking nobody's permission. He's not sitting down, with a conversation, asking his wife, can I marry another? Like, I'm not asking your permission. If I see something I want, I'm going to get it. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be respectful of your feelings. I'm not going to be respectful of the process. But at the same token, you do not dictate to me what I feel is best for me in my life. You don't, even though we share my life together. You understand? Even though we share my life together, you don't dictate to me what I can do, what I can't do. Those dictates are given to me by my Lord, by my Creator. Those dictates are given to me by my Creator and nobody else. Nobody dictates to me what I can have, what I can't have. Now, as a woman, I might consult you because I respect your feelings. I respect the process, without a doubt. But at the same token, first of all, I'm not an Arab. She said I'm a dirty Arab. I'm not an Arab. Why are you Muslim? So I guess we got a lot of people from the UK on here because they are in their feelings right now about Islam. But anyway, so when men do things that cause women to disrespect them, you're getting caught talking to women on the internet, you're getting caught doing this. And I mean, then the thing about it is that you get caught. You get caught. You know what I mean? Like, that is what makes it even worse. You get caught. Your wife, Wallah al-Azim, the worst type of conversation that you can have with a woman is when she is holding the cards. She holds the king of spades, and she comes to you and says, you know, holds your cell phone up, holds a phone paper up, a phone bill up with phone calls to this, and say, yo, you want to have a conversation with me about this? And, you know what I mean? Like, as a man, you shrink. You shrink in her eyes. At that very moment, she no longer respects you. Not because of the route you chose, right? But you got caught. You got caught trying to cheat with somebody on the internet, on the phone, you know, like, and then on top of that, the phone is in her name. She's scanning the bill. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you taking a phone that's in your wife's name, a phone that's in your girlfriend's name, and you're using that same phone to cheat on her? You understand what I'm saying? Like, those are the things that, like, as a man, I don't respect you. As a man, I wouldn't respect you. I would look at you differently. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a man. So how much more would your woman look at you seeing like you got caught trying to cheat? You know, and then how do you explain that? How do you explain that? How do you explain to your wife, yeah, you know, I'm going through something, you know? I mean, like, what excuse do you come up with? And any excuse you come up with, it only increases her disrespect of you. She has no respect for you. More so because of how you got caught. Like, you were like so sloppy that, you know, you left the internet open. Here's the conversation. She walks into the living room, sees your laptop open, and just sees the conversation right there. It's like you can't even sneak and get caught cheating. Don't do things that will make a woman disrespect you. If you're having feelings, I mean, like, I can't speak for someone who is outside of Islam, but polygyny is permissible in Islam. And if you're having feelings like you want to take another wife, or you want to explore that, then have that conversation. Have that conversation. Say, hey, listen, this is what is going on. This is what I'm going to look into. I can't say whether or not I'm going to go through with it, but, you know, no, it's not halal to search for a co-wife on social media. That's not the process that was given to us. Follow the process. How do you know? You know what I'm saying? Like, thoughts on showing your wife emotional side? Crying? I mean, that depends. I mean, like, every man has an emotional side. And if a woman is, you know, if you're living in a home with a woman, like, you're sharing the same space with her, eventually that emotional side is going to come out. Right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in crying. It could be in you, you know, sharing some things that happened to you from childhood that you've never shared before. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could happen in any different way. You look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he ran home to his wife. When he saw Angel Jibril for the first time, he ran home to his wife. And what it means to be emotional is to expose your vulnerability, to show to show that vulnerable side in front of your woman. And I think that that's what it means to be emotional. Showing a woman your emotional side is being able to be vulnerable, being able to take the mask off in front of her and allow her to see you completely, with nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like all your armor off. You know what I mean? It's raining very hard outside. Very beautiful. You can search for a co-wife through going through your local imam, contacting imams of other communities, going through, but anybody online, anybody who goes through the process of filling out an application, putting it online for everybody to see, I'm just, yes, it does. I love the rain, and I'm actually glad that I'm sitting in a car where this is happening right now. Yeah, I mean, going through the proper channels, man. Going online and trying to meet somebody online, that's dangerous, man. You don't know who you getting, man. It's like buying a car online versus buying a car from somebody that you can have direct human interaction with. It's something totally different. I feel much comfortable, going to this person's house, test driving the car, communicating with the person, see how the person lives before I give the person my money and a guarantee, a human guarantee that if something goes wrong, I can come back to them, versus me going online and person sending me pictures online. It could not actually be the real deal. You understand what I'm saying? This is totally different, man. And we cannot allow using social media to, eliminate the human interaction that is necessary, man. All right, so respect. Number one, knowing her dynamic, her family dynamic and where she comes from. Number two, getting her to love you. Number three, respecting you by you respecting yourself, by you not putting yourself in a situation to be disrespected. And number four, I think some women are just naturally, some women naturally will love you and let you have your place as a man. The Prophet ﷺ said, لَتَجِدَنَّ النَّاسِ كَالْمَعَادِنِ, that you will find people, the characters of people like the elements of the earth, like the metals of the earth. Some are like brass, some are like metals, some are like, carbons, some are like gold, some are like silver. These are all metals that the earth produces. And the Prophet ﷺ used that as a metaphor for how people's characters are. So you'll find some women who are just naturally, you'll find people that are sometimes just naturally, loving and compassionate and will give you that without you having to ask for it. If he loses her respect, how does he gain it? Good question. I don't know. I don't think I've ever lost my wife's respect. I hope I haven't. So, I don't know. I could just give you theory of what I believe, right? What would do. And I think the first thing that you have to do is to stand in your discomfort and own the fact that you effed up. That's the only way that I can say that, because that's what it is. Like, you have to stand in your discomfort and say, I effed up. I did. And there's no other way to justify that. Men, we like to come with these half behind excuses. Well, if you was doing, and don't ever put it on her, especially if it was all you, even if she was a part of that. You still have to stand in your discomfort and own that. Don't say, well, if you would have done more of this, then maybe I wouldn't have did that. If we was having sex more often, maybe I wouldn't have, been on the internet, looking at porn. Maybe I wouldn't have been on the internet doing this. It's like, what? It's like, what? So now you're going to blame, like, this is like blood in my eye. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, not only are you not standing in your standing in your truth, but then you're going to try to turn around and put that on the woman? Well, if we was having sex more often, maybe I wouldn't. When a woman decides not to have sex with you anymore, or to decrease the amount of sex that she is having with you, that can mean a number of things. Number one, she is no longer emotionally connected to you. Women, when a woman, I'm not talking about the type of manufactured females that this society is producing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real women who were given game by their mothers, their grandmothers, who came out of homes that produced women. That's what I'm talking about. When a woman is emotionally connected to you, sex is automatic. It's automatic. When a woman is no longer emotionally connected to you, so is the sex. Disconnected. A woman does not have sex with a man that she is not emotionally connected to. Men have sex with women and other things, even though they're not necessarily emotionally connected. We don't have to be emotionally connected to have sex with someone. Men do it all the time. You have sex with a woman, get caught, the woman asks, well, do you love her? No, I don't love her. It was just a thing. And it was just a thing. It was no emotional attachment. Women give you, their heart, and the private part comes along with it. That's a byproduct of that. So either you are not having sex regularly with your spouse because she is no longer emotionally connected to you, so therefore you don't have the keys to the other parts of her body. When you lose the keys to her heart, you lose the keys to other parts of her body as well. Her mental, her physical, her emotional, her spirit, you lose it all. When you lose the key to her heart, you lose the key to everything else. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. All right. So when brothers say, well, if we were having sex more often, maybe, I wouldn't have been on the internet looking at porn. Maybe I wouldn't have been doing this, or maybe I would that's a lame excuse. Because if you were not having sex as often as you would have liked it, then you should have sat down and had a conversation and say, hey, listen, I noticed that there's a disconnect. What's happening? What's going on? What do I need to do? Or a woman may not be having sex with you regularly because the sex is not fulfilling. It's not intimacy. It's just pure sex. And, part of what makes a relationship is intimacy. That's even part of our religion. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't go into the back of your wives like a male camel goes to the back of a she camel, taking its pleasure and then leaving. Meaning that with our women, with our wives, it shouldn't just be about sex. And for many men, that's what it becomes. It's just the mechanics of it. You go until, you're finished. And then once you're done, you get up and you move on about your business. No pillow talk, no hugging, no touching, no nothing. You went to your wife like a male camel goes to the female she camel. You take your pleasure and you keep it moving. Eventually, a woman gets tired of that. She wants more. You are her husband. She wants more from you than just, sex. She wants intimacy. So a lot of times as men, we say, oh, well, we're not having sex as often. And you got to look at, okay, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? When it comes to that, women are usually, reactionists. They react to, what is being given to them. So if you're just giving them the mechanical sex, eventually they get tired of that. I don't want to just have mechanical sex with you. I want to be intimate with you. You are my husband, right? I want to be intimate with you. And I mean, we have to, brothers have to stop watching these rap videos and, looking at these, porn. This is what porn does to you. Porn steals your ability for human intimacy, human connection. The more and more you watch porn, the more you desensitize yourself to the human connection, because porn is not a natural human connection. It's not intimacy. It's two strangers that got in front of a camera and had sex in front of a camera. As you're watching this over and over and over again, you are desensitizing yourself to the natural intimacy that goes in between the husband and the wife, a male and a female. You understand? That's not going to work. I mean, whatever. I mean, but to the smack in the face is to say, okay, well, if we were having sex more often, I wouldn't have been on the internet. I wouldn't have been talking to women. I wouldn't have been doing this. And then you got to sit back and say, okay, well, what part did you play in that? What part did you play in that? So That how you build your respect back up with your wife once you lose it is you have to stand in your discomfort. You have to stand in your truth that you messed up, and whatever it takes for me to fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like, then I'll do what I have to do. And you can't expect that to come back, immediately. That's something that you have to work for. And some of us are not, here again, are not willing to work for it. We're like, okay, we did what it took for us to lose our respect. And then when she doesn't want to give it back to us, when we feel we deserve it, then we out. I'm out. Well, I'm not going to stay in a relationship with you if you're not going to respect me. It's like, but I did respect you. You were the cause of me not respecting you. And then you want to leave because I won't give you the respect back that you don't deserve. You don't deserve it. Like, it's, I'm just, men, we got to check ourselves, man. We got to check ourselves, man. You have to stand in your truth. You have to stand in your discomfort and say, hey, I messed up. And whatever it takes for me to make it right, that's what I'll do. Now, if you're not looking to be in a marriage, you looking to be in a quick relationship, then, obviously you're going to pack your things and you're going to go and do the same thing to somebody else, leaving behind a trail of tears. You're going to go back and do the same thing to somebody else. The last thing, as I said, some women are just naturally, they're natural, lovers. They love. Some women naturally love. That's just their nature. Don't take that away from them. Some men, because we're uncomfortable with love, we push them away from us. That is uncomfortable. You're too needy. You're too this. You're too that. You're too touchy-feely. I don't really like that. You know what I mean? What man doesn't want the woman, not all the time, but doesn't want a woman checking on him and checking for him? About it is that we'll push our wives away because they're too needy, they're too touchy-feely, whatever the case may be. But then we go get shape-ups and we dress real nice, going out looking for attention from other women. The only woman that you should want attention from is the woman that is right in front of you. Yeah, it feels good to go here and go there and have women checking on you, but you're looking at your wife's face as she lights up because she gets a kick out of seeing other women attracted to her husband because at the end of the day, she's the only one going home with you. My wives are not offended by that. They actually find it hilarious because they know that the women can stare all they want. They can walk all they want. At the end of the day, I'm going home with him. And that, and the comfort of a woman knowing that, it makes her even more attracted to you. It makes her even more attracted to you because she sees that other women want you, but she knows that you don't want anybody but her. That makes the woman even more attracted to you. But we got our heads in the cloud. We're like, oh, these chicks over here checking me out. They checking me out, whatever. But your wife not checking you out. That's a problem. If the woman you with is not checking you out and other women around you are checking you out, you got the game twisted. You hustling backwards. The hustle is to make your wife look at you like that. You understand? What if it's the issue in the girl? The issue is in the girl. What do you mean? If the woman has other men looking at her, or the woman is, beautifying herself for other men? I don't understand what the question is. But, like God, brothers, man, we got to understand, man, like that's not what it is. And all of the women that look at you from the outside. I mean, sometimes I'm out and about and I'm walking and a woman looking at you and she's, giving you a certain look and you're like, girl, please. You are not ready to be married. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I've been married to one of my wives for almost 20 years, the other wife for almost 10 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not ready to be in a relationship with somebody like me. Knock it off. You think I'm cute from afar until you get into this life, and then you realize you're not about this life. So keep it moving. And men, we cannot allow ourselves to get caught up in that. We can't allow ourselves to get caught up in that, man. We have to realize that, if you are marriage material, you understand? As a man, I'm marriage material. I'm not girlfriend, boyfriend material. You understand? Like, I wouldn't last in a situation like that. I'm marriage material. I'm the type of man that you marry. You understand? I'm not the type of man that you see quickly, you want to go have a quick relationship with. I'm not that dude. You understand? Maybe 30 years ago, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm marriage material. I'm the type of person you look at and say, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. That's, as men, that helps us to deflect all of those thoughts that come into our mind about, maybe I can go be with this one, or maybe I can go find in her what I can't find in my wife. Maybe I can go find in her, maybe she'll do the things that my wife wouldn't do. And maybe she would, but she's going to give you a whole nother level of headache that your wife didn't give you. Think about that. For all of those men who allow shaitan, who entertain the thoughts of shaitan, that I can go out and be with this woman and I can have a better relationship with her, better relationship. You know what I mean? Like, you probably could, but that woman is going to bring you more drama, more headache in your life than your current wife is. And if I had a choice to go find somebody new and got to build a relationship with that person rather than, work on the one that I already have, obviously I'm going to work on the one that I already have. The new one is a gamble. Ain't no telling how long that's going to last. If you've been married to this person for 10 years or you've been married to this person for 20 years, you already see what that is. You know what that is. That ain't going nowhere. This new situation, especially as superficial as a lot of women are today, they believe the entire world revolves around them. So this whole idea, I'm going to go out and find somebody new, like, you sadly mistaken how long that's going to last. Society is not producing people who are, selfless enough to have a long-term relationship. People are selfish, narcissistic, privileged individuals. You understand? So, men, get that out of your mind into thinking that, I can go find this person or I can go find another person. Yeah, your wife is not, none of us are functioning at 100%. We ain't got 100% battery in us. None of us. So this whole idea that I'm going to go find somebody who's going to do for me what my wife is not doing for me, that's a myth, man. That's a myth. That's a myth, man, and I'm sad. Anybody who thinks like that is that's a myth. It's not real. It's a farce. It's not real. What is real is what you have in front of you. And if you reach a threshold with the person, a lot of people ask, well, how do I know when it's over? If you got to ask that question, I don't know, I don't know how to respond to you. If you have to say, how do you know when it's over? You should know when it's over. Your heart should already tell you that it's over, right? When the Prophet ﷺ, man came to him and the Prophet said, you came to ask me about righteousness. He said, istafti qalbak. He said, ask your heart. You want to know when it's over? No human being can tell you when the relationship is over. Your heart is what communicates to you whether or not the situation is over with. When you look at your spouse in disdain, you hate everything about them. You hate being in the same room with them. Everything about them gets on your nerve. All of the things that you used to love about them and the things that used to attract you about them now makes you hate looking at them. Then it's over. It's over. You've reached your threshold, and staying in the relationship beyond that point, you become oppressive. Even if you have children, your children can pick up on it quicker than you can. Your children can pick up on it quicker than you can. Yes, it's become toxic. You've reached the point in your marriage where being in the same room with this person irks you. You look at the person in disdain. You hate looking at them. Nothing about them is attractive to you. Everything about them gets on your nerve. The way they cough, the way they laugh, the way they walk, everything gets on your nerve. Then you have reached your threshold. And staying in a relationship beyond this point, you become the oppressor. Especially if you have not communicated to the person how you felt. That's even worse, because you're leading the person to believe that you're all good and everything is good. And in the back of your mind, you can't stand this person. You can't stand that person. When you reach that point, you can go back to being normal. No. There's a new normal, but you cannot go back to the old normal. You have to create a new normal. There's no going back to the beginning, man. That's a myth. That's a farce as well. Once you get to that point in your relationship, there is no going back to, let's go back to the way things used to be. That's a farce. That's a myth. It's not real. The only thing that you can do at that point is create a new normal where you guys can function cohesively, even if it's not with the level of intensity as it was the first time. You understand? That it's never going to go back to being the way that it used to be, because that time has passed. And the person that you were and the person that she was, or the person that he was and the person that you were, you're not that person anymore. So how could you go back? How can you go back? In 7 years of all our cells in our body have changed, we're different. Yes, absolutely. You're a different person. Not to mention the experience that has gotten you to that point has changed you. The experiences that you've had with that person has changed you to such a degree, you can't go back. You have to create a new normal. You have to create a new normal, accepting the things that you can't change and learning how to become content with that. Learning how to, just move on from that point. Okay? So that's what I wanted to present. So this whole idea of how do I get my woman to act right, it basically it depends on you as a man. There's some men, unfortunately, who grow up without fathers, who grow up without seeing, healthy relationships, and they run into a ton of obstacles, a ton of mistakes they make. You know what I mean? A ton of mistakes that they make throughout their lives with women. Horrible experiences that they've had with women simply because they had no one. You know what I mean? I do whatever she says to me and she acts fantastic. Well, that's one way. I mean, that works for you. I can't argue that. I do whatever she asks and it works for you. Right? All right, so, I think a lot of it has to do with us as men. We asking, how do we get them to act right? You got to act right. That's essentially the whole message here. You want to know how to get your woman to act right? You got to act right. It's just, unfortunately, as men, how do I act right? That's the $1 million question. Have you ever heard of a wife divorcing her husband while being pregnant? No, I've never heard of that. Never heard of that. So, that's all the time that I have for you guys. Hopefully, you can find some benefit in it. I pray that for those of you who are, just now tuning in, you can go back to my YouTube page, www.rawdah, www.rolla on YouTube, and you can find the Man Logic and the Woman's Intuition lecture series dealing with marriage. I had stopped talking about marriage for a long time, but since we have the one-day marriage retreat coming up in Atlanta, I figured, now will be a good time to bring those conversations up. Not to mention that April and May are usually high marriage seasons, so this is around the time when people are really starting to looking for a spouse and finding people to marry and things like that. So, it's a good time to have those discussions. I already said how long I've been married. I'm not going to repeat that. So with that being said, inshallah ta'ala, yes, I'm done. I'm done. It requires a lot It requires a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of research that goes into my lectures. I don't just grab a book and start to regurgitate to you what I read out of a book. I go back, sometimes weeks on end, I'm doing research. Not just from an Islamic perspective, from a psychology perspective, from a social perspective. You understand? Like, you know, it's a lot of energy. Like, I'm very careful about the information that I give out. All right. I think that is a huge thing that, you know, we should be very careful in the information that we give out, and that the information is as close to being correct and authentic as we can possibly be. My parents were not married. I had to figure all of this out. My parents were not married. My YouTube channel is www.rawdah, RAWDAH. If you just go to YouTube and you type in www.rawdah, that is my channel. Those are the lectures that I uploaded myself. And then, of course, you can go to Shadeed Muhammad on YouTube, and, you know, there's no telling what may come up, but you can find some other lectures there. My Instagram page as well as my Facebook page, Shadeed Muhammad /Rawdah admin. On Facebook, inshallah ta'ala. If you have any further inquiries or questions that you would like to ask, Imam Shadeed Muhammad at Gmail. Just ask for a recommendation to a relationship therapist. You just cleared up everything. MashaAllah. Glad that I can help. You can ask questions through email, inshallah. Do I have to be Muslim to know what's right? What do you mean to know what's right? What do I think of Trump? Here we are talking about marriage. You asking me about Trump. Come on, man. No, it's my pleasure. Alhamdulillah. You guys enjoy your day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.